So yeah, kind of share with me about yourself in real estate. Like, what got you into real estate? Did you kind of?
Yeah, so homeowner myself, and I currently have about two rental properties. Just wanted to kind of educate myself, ramping up the portfolio. Main thing is I do wanted to tap into multifamily. That's the one thing that I kind of uncharted territory. Um, I have friends, families also flip houses, and I have, in my circle, there's a good agent circle as well. So not really. I mean, I think I'm still a newbie, but I just wanted to kind of learn more about from that perspective, someone already have, a couple properties and just kind of how and, when would be a good time to tap into multifamily.
Yeah. Yeah, I had some additional questions before I dive in.
Mhm.
So did you just buy your primary residence first just for you to live in? I'm assuming.
No, I kind of have been getting properties along the way to as a primary home. So I got one and then been living it since 2009 and then upgrading to another one very soon. And then as I go, every property just kind of I would turn it into a rental. So it used to be my primary resident, and then I kind of upgrade. And then because of the appreciation from the market, and I'm able to kind of make more than the mortgage
Yeah, no, thanks for
and
sharing.
have that cash flow.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that because your story is very relatable, right? That's most people, to be honest, right? You buy a house for yourself, you live in there, and you just want to upgrade to the bigger house, but you had the means to not have to sell it, and you rented out the prior house, right?
Yeah. So
Like,
I think it's very typical. I mean,
yeah,
someone in the Bay Area, right? And just trying to um, have that and then, a couple properties under my belt and in terms of, rental properties as well, managing them on my own. But just kind of like, where do I go from here?
yeah.
Right.
Okay, so you're in the Bay Area. I was gonna ask, like, are you in a high cost of living area? So yeah, I grew up in the Bay Area as well. I own a couple of single family homes, and I know that it's crazy now, right? Like you bought in 2009, that was a good time, right?
Yeah.
And then as you bought organically over, how long did it take you to buy all those three? Like, over what time span?
Like 5 years.
Oh, it's pretty fast.
I mean, we are gonna move out of this current resident and move into a different area. Another 5 bedroom. So it just for the family needs, basically the
Yeah.
family, growing family, and we need kind of more room for what we need, work from home. Um, so that's why.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I know because I'm from the Bay Area, it's like 1.5 to 2 million, right? If you want to be like in a really nice area.
At least, oh my God, even in the not very good area, that it's like, okay, bare minimum, it's like 1.2, 1.5.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was born and raised in Milpitas, so I
Oh,
went to high
nice.
school there. But I know like Fremont, which is neighboring. Yeah, it's like, if you're Mission San Jose district, yeah, it's like 2.5 to 3 million. That's where my cousins grew up. So yeah, no, if you're looking at San Mateo along the peninsula, same thing, right?
Yeah.
Only the cheaper areas like Hayward, like San Leandro, are the cheap areas, but yeah, they're not as nice. A little
Yeah.
bit.
And then the schools started to be like questionable, right? So then it's like, then you're like, okay, I grew up in San Mateo myself. So high school, everything is great. But it
Yeah,
just like, does it make sense to drop like 2.5 and then, have to worry about all that and property tax just
yeah,
on a 3 bedroom, you know?
yeah. So okay, so and then I assume you are working full time W-2.
Yep. Yep.
My
W-2.
tech
Same thing
is
with my husband,
okay.
W-2.
So you both basically two income earners, right?
A decent. I mean, in the Bay Area, what is high? Like, unless your name's on the, can be Googled. I mean, I guess everybody can be Googled, but
Yeah,
unless you're like, the top in like each tech company, then you're not really considered high earning. I think
That's
you just barely make it at this point in the Bay Area.
that's why I left the Bay Area, because I was just a pharmacist, and I was a pharmacy director at a hospital, and I was just like, wait, I'm at the top of my profession and I make less than most tech people. So I was just like, oh God, it was so discouraging.
That's
But
another reason why I reached out to you initially, because I am a pharmacist, well, pharmacy school dropout. So I went to pharmacy school for 1 year, and I'm just like, this is not worth it. I like can't see myself, and like I can't like I felt like the hardest part, like getting in, was like the hardest. And then I was like, first year, I was like, no, this is not really for me.
yeah, I mean, well, I guess you save yourself tuition, because I know a lot of pharmacists, they quit after they be finished everything. Like my, yeah, I know at least 5, 6 pharmacists my year, they graduated and they have $250,000 student debt, and they don't even work as a pharmacist. They just quit. So I mean,
So what did they do?
you cut your
It's like
losses.
a career path, like career now.
Yeah. So that, you cut your
Mhm.
losses in a way if you're not passionate about it. Like, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm super passionate about it. I just kind of moved up and dominated the career just because like I thought that's what you're supposed to do. And then I realized, like, once I got laid off during COVID, like who lays off a pharmacist during COVID, right? Don't you think you would need a pharmacist,
Yeah.
especially in a hospital? And then once I got laid off, I was just like, oh my God, like, that's when I went all into real estate, right? And that's when I scaled to 90 units. I bought 80 units in 8 months when I got laid
Wow.
off.
That's crazy.
So, that's kind of my story. But no, so basically, from your story, what I'm hearing is, I mean, you probably have high equity single family homes right now. Like you probably bought them, they appreciate nicely.
Yeah.
Right. And
Nice cash flow.
nice cash flow only because you bought it at such a great price.
Yeah.
Interest rates were probably lower back then, and then, or like around the fours. And then, property taxes lower because you bought it cheaper. So
Yeah.
because you bought so early on in 2009, you're able to rent it out in cash flow. But if you were to buy that same property today
Yeah.
at current value and you rent it out, you're going to be negative cash flow.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the issue I ran into. I was just like, well, it's just like you. I would get a new job as a pharmacist. I would buy another property. And then when I changed jobs, I'd buy another property closer to that new job because I qualify again for a, conventional loan. Right.
Yeah.
So I was doing that. What you were doing, I would move, rent out my last house. But to be honest, my houses broke even or slightly negative despite me self-managing it. Right. California is all appreciation, not much cash flow unless you bought it early on, like what you did. Right.
Yeah.
So you get the best of both worlds a little bit. Right. But you have a lot of equity that's kind of trapped a little bit. Right. Like,
yeah, in a way, that's another issue that I'm like, should I pull out the equity? I mean, I could, right? But then it would need to be, worth it. And I thought about, multifamily, perhaps. I don't know if your advice is like multifamily in California. I'm open to even anywhere, to be honest with you, like out of state, or, even getting another single family out of state even. And I know in the, it's just kind of the overall real estate community, a lot of people are, doing that also.
Yeah. So, I mean, just for some context for me, like, okay, how much would you say your first single family home is worth today? How much equity do you have in that property?
Like 400, 450.
So you have 450,000 in there, and then you're renting it for how much? How much are you renting
that one? Well, see, that one is like in like an area that it's not so good.
Okay.
So it's renting like only like 1,800.
Okay, so that's on the lower end.
Lower end, yeah,
single
because the
family home?
tenant is, it's like, see, it's a situation. The tenant is good. I'm like about to do a 1031 exchange on that one because I was like, it's not worth it at this point. And if the market like that, I might as well just put. I mean, that's another area that I'm like willing to explore. That's why I, wanted to talk to more people and just kind of get some advice. But yeah, it's on the lower end. The tenant's really good. They have been in there for like I want to say 9 years, 10 years.
Wow.
And they have been always taking out the house. I like don't even have to lift a finger. The roof is something, we'll fix it. The fence, like, we'll fix it. So I'm like, where do you find a tenant like that,
Yeah. I mean, if you were to sell it, how much is it worth?
It would be probably like 500-ish.
500K? So,
Yeah. Yeah, 500.
Okay. So and basically you have 500K house and you're getting about 1,800 a month, right?
Yeah.
And then I assume you probably haven't raised rent since you rented out, or have you did raise
No,
rent?
we have like here and there, but it's just not
Yeah.
really.
So like, okay, so your house is $500,000, right? So if you watch my videos of my first apartment complex I bought was $500,000, and I was grossing 10K a month day one.
Yeah,
That's
it's crazy.
that's 5x your cash flow, right?
Yeah.
And the
But
difference
you're in a
too,
good area, you could, really rent it out. How much did you rent it out for?
yeah. So I'm in Oklahoma City. When I bought it, rents were around 400
Okay.
for like a 1-2 bedroom. That's crazy, right? Like you in the Bay Area, that's impossible, right?
You
But
would rent a toilet.
yeah, that's like a little shed in the backyard somewhere. Not even.
So
Uh,
you are in Oklahoma right now.
no,
Oklahoma
I'm in
City.
I'm in Los Angeles,
Oh, nice. Nice.
Southern California. So, still in California, but I renovated lots of units, and I was able to raise the rents from 400 to 700.
Okay.
Right? And do you know how multifamily is valued versus single family?
No, educate me.
So single family, it's based on the sales comps,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
your house is worth what your neighbor's house is worth when you
yeah.
sell.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Single
mm-hmm.
family. So
Yeah.
that counts for single family, duplex, triplex, fourplex. They don't care how much rent you get. You can get 10,000 a month in rent or 1,000 a month in rent. They don't care. The value is based purely on what your neighbor's house sells for.
Yeah.
Sales comps. With multifamily, so multifamily is, I define it as 5+ units. So when you're
Okay.
5 units at least, that's when the value is based on something called the net operating income divided by the market cap rate.
Okay.
It's a math equation, right?
Mhm. Yep.
So net operating income is your income minus your expense,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then the cap rate, it depends on your market, right? So Oklahoma, it's an 8 cap. So the higher the cap rate, the more cash flow the market is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
California is, let's just say, a 4 cap. It's not going to be as much cash flow in California. There's more
Yeah.
appreciation, right? So you take that equation, right? So let's just say I make 100,000 gross rent, right? That's my gross rental income for the year. My expense is 50%. So that's 50K of
Mm-hmm.
expense. And then my cap rate is an 8 cap. So you take 50,000 and you divide it by 0.08.
Mm-hmm.
That's the value of your apartment complex.
So how do you get that cap rate?
It's just so it's just kind of from experience, to be honest, and then you can ask brokers. Usually you can kind of look at a couple deals and ask brokers for that, but typically in the southeast, your cap
Mm-hmm.
rate's like 7 to 8. It's higher. Maybe it's like
Mm-hmm.
9 now, given this market. And then if you look at the hot markets, like California, Florida, Texas, it's gonna be a
Mm-hmm.
lower cap rate, like 4 to 5 cap. So that's just generally speaking, but you can talk to brokers, and they'll tell you, right? And for me, because I own apartments in Oklahoma, when they do their appraisal report, they'll actually tell you the cap rates of the market. So
Oh.
once I've gotten an appraisal report, I kind of know what the cap rate looks like, but it's constantly shifting, right?
Yeah. Is
So
it just an area or the whole state or just kind of
it's
depend on the zip code? Like
yeah,
how is it
it's
defined?
it's zip code dependent, and then
Okay.
how new your apartment is. So it's A class, B class, C class apartment complex. A class is it's built within, I think it's either brand new or within like 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So an A class apartment would be built in 2018
Got it.
to this year, right? A B class
Mhm.
is 5 to 10 years old. A C class is anything older than 10 years.
Okay.
So most people, like me and you, starting
Mm-hmm.
off, we start off in C class apartment complex, right? Both of my apartment complexes are C class. They're built in 1970s. They're old,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what's that, like 60, 50 years old?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where you kind of get started, and that's where you make the most money, but it's the most work,
Yeah.
right? So
So how questioned?
mhm.
How do you coming from California? How do you get people to work on your apartment? That's number one. Two, how do you finance it? Consider, the um, loan amount. Like I know that there are like DSCR loans that you can take, right? To, if you have like a couple of rental property, you can just go to the bank, like, hey, this is gonna perhaps the comps, like how much it rent out for, right? So then do you just go that route, or do like what kind of loan or kind of options do you have, like even for starters? Question number 3 is, how do you even identify that market? How often do you go?
Yeah. So let me do the first question, the most recent one, because I already forgot the first two. But why Oklahoma? I had a really good property manager there, plain and
God.
simple.
How do you find people? My first question.
Yeah. So that property manager was a referral from somebody who invests in Oklahoma City, right? And he owned multiple apartment complexes there. So the best source is referrals, right? But for me, what I kind of teach, and if you watch I have a lot of YouTube videos teaching. You can binge it if you have a long commute, or if you work from home and you need some background noise, you can listen to me talk. But for me, it's really referrals. But then even despite getting referrals, you always want backups, because 9 out of 10 property managers are bad.
Yeah.
So you play percentages. The one that you're getting referred, 9 out of 10 is going to be bad, right? So I have like 3 backups at all times. In case one property manager is bad, they don't deliver, I move on to my next property manager. That one doesn't deliver, I move on to the next one, right?
So you're constantly connecting with people, constantly like, I'm in this area, who do you got type thing.
Exactly. So I try to network with people in Oklahoma City and just say, hey, like, who are you using for property management? What's your experience been? Right. So you at least start to build that Rolodex of property managers to work with. And, I have like a pretty long checklist of questions I ask them to screen my property manager. But once you have a good property manager, they refer you everyone else. So they refer me my general contractor if I'm doing renovations. They refer me my title company. They refer me lenders. So once you identify your property manager, and if they're a great property manager, they will know great contractors. They will know great lenders. They know great people, right? Great people attract great people. So for me, I find the good property manager. At that point, they find everything else for me. But of course, I'm looking myself as well, right? So I have multiple people, because I have 2 different apartment complexes, 2 different property managers, and then 2 different contractors. And they're each other backup, right? In case one doesn't do well, get rid of one, have the other one take over that one, right?
Yeah.
So I test with a small apartment complex, 26 unit, 20 unit, it's considered small, believe it or not.
Wow.
But yeah, I just said, hey, like, if you do well with me, my goal is I want to buy more.
Of course, yeah.
Right? Of course. And I want you to manage my properties as I buy more. So I may seem small right now, but fast forward, 10 years, I'm still young, right? I'm still in my 30s. I might own like 100 units or 200 units, over time, organically, right? And so that's how I did that. And in terms of financing, there's many ways to do it. I have a video talk about creative financing. It's a little bit more skilled, right? So if the property is paid off, the seller can become the bank. It's called seller financing, right? If they have a loan on the property and you want to take over it, it's called subject to. So you take over the project subject to. But in order to do that, you have to build trust. You have to know what you're saying, and you have to build a relationship with the buyer or the seller, right? So that's what I kind of teach. And that's what a lot of people do, right? Like, that's why I do direct mail. If you watch my stuff, I do direct mail. I send out letters direct to owners, so I don't talk with brokers. And I talk to the owners directly, and I build a relationship with them and try to buy their properties.
Yeah, I think that's what I was just very intrigued. I was like, how did you do that? Because it makes no sense. Like, just from the comments, and I was like, what does that mean? Like, what? Like, I don't understand. Like, direct mail to what? So I get it now.
Yeah.
So if you're basically targeting owners that basically free and clear having those multiple units like in their hand, and then they like somehow wanted to get rid of it for whatever reason.
Exactly, right? So I mean, like, you may not always, like, I didn't get lucky with I got lucky with seller financing for my mobile home park that I bought. But he had no choice to seller finance because that was the only option, right? But the other two, I bought one with a traditional loan through Bank of the West, and then the other one I bought using a hard money loan, right? Because the property wouldn't qualify because the rent income wasn't good enough, right? So those are the two. So I've basically done all three, right? So the Bank of the West loan, they want to look at the property, like what's the income, what's the rent, what's the expense, and what's your DSCR.
Yeah.
Right. So they underwrite the deal, right? So they'll underwrite the deal. They'll look at, okay, they want 25% down. Back then, interest rate was like 4%, amortized over 30 years, fixed for 10 years.
Okay.
Right. So once it's all math, right? From that equation, your loan based on your offer, you can calculate your loan amount and you'll notice what your monthly loan payment is.
Yeah.
Times that by 1.25, that's how much your NOI needs to be.
Yeah.
So lenders want the DSCR greater than 1.25.
Yep.
You can calculate your offer price, right? Like from that,
yeah.
right? And they're basing it off of today's rent. Like how much is it currently renting for right now?
Mm-hmm.
Not what the future is, what it is today, actually.
Yeah. But what if sometimes like me, like my first property, like I just rented out for so low that it may not even be market, then what do you do?
Yeah. So from there, but just keep in mind with apartments, they look at the apartment first, you second. Does that make sense? So like if you buy when you buy your residential homes, they're asking for your debt to income ratio.
Yeah. Everything.
Right? They ask for that, right? Like, okay, hey, like give me your pay stubs, give me bank statements. If you rent out property, show me the leases. Right? Because they're trying to calculate your debt to income ratio. When you hit my level of 90 units, my tax return's ugly. Right? My tax return is not pretty at all, right? Because I'm pumping money to renovate things. I'm doing tax write-offs, right?
Yeah.
And they don't even care. I make a good W-2 salary, but they don't care. Like they just like, wow, your tax return looks so ugly, right? I renovated 40 units in the past year. So I spent like at least $600,000 to renovate all my 90 units. And no one's tax returns and look pretty if you spent $600,000 renovating, 90 units over a year. So basically just know that they look at the property first and then the potential of the property and then you second, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's traditional recourse debt. I call it recourse. It means you're personally liable for it. If you file for bankruptcy, they come after you, take your other assets. Non-recourse debt is either A, you're doing a DSCR loan, right? That's like a hard money loan. Or B, it qualifies for, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac.
Yeah.
Right. Unfortunately, smaller apartment complexes is harder to qualify for Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Right. Yeah. So you're going to have to personally guarantee these loans. Mm-hmm. Or if you don't want the personal guarantee, you're going to pay a higher interest rate. That's the trade-off. Yeah. It makes sense. Right. So like for me, I refinanced my 20 unit. I personally guaranteed it. My interest rate was 7.5. Mm-hmm. If I didn't personally guarantee it, I'd be at 11.
Yeah.
Just for some context, right? Mm-hmm. So from there, it depends what loan product you want to use, right? So I do all the above, right? Like I want to do Bank of the West for traditional financing. I want to do a DSCR lender or a hard money lender. And then I want to try to pitch creative financing as well. Creative financing is always the best option, the easiest.
Yeah.
Right? But you have to build that relationship. And that's the hard part to teach.
And you have to build a portfolio too, just kind of like, what you're doing, you're going into the deal. Probably seller financing would be a way later or like after a first or second deal kind of thing, right? Because otherwise you can't really just go to somebody like, hey, you're the owner. Hey, I'm interested to like, let's just say me to you. Like, I'm interested in like taking over some of your apartments. And like, what's in it for you, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're like in some kind of situation that you need to get out and like, I'm in, getting very uncomfortable for whatever reason, then, I'll let you take over it for me.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely is harder as a beginner, but it's doable, right? It's like I said, it's a relationship. So like, is the owner having pain or do they want gain? Yeah. If they're in pain, that means they want to unload it because it's like maybe their situation is not good, right? So in that case, you have to leverage the pain as to why you should do creative financing. Like, hey, like look at like the property is not cash flowing well. No traditional lender will finance this deal at the price you want. But if I want to give you the price that you want, I don't mind doing it. But you must do some type of creative financing with me, right? Or if you want me to offer you a price and I have to use a hard money lender, then this is my offer price, right? So I would give them both offers. Here, this is my offer of a hard money loan. It's $1 million. If you want to do creative financing, my offer is 1.5. They see it. They see the disparity.
Yeah.
Right. So I do that all the time. And I'll let you pick. Right. Like, like what solution do you want?
You work with question. Do you work with an agent then out there to help you do that?
No brokers, nothing.
What? Wow, that's really impressive.
If you listen to my episodes, like I bash on brokers. They're not good. So, okay, let's talk about this. All right. So this is my situation. I have no experience in multifamily. Right. That was me. Right. That's where you're at right now. We have single family homes. They don't care if you own 100 single family homes. You don't own multifamily, period.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you have no experience. So they don't want to bring you good deals. Why would they bring you a good deal? If I was a top broker, I would want to bring a deal to somebody who I worked with before.
Yep.
Who I know that will close, and I know who's serious.
Yeah.
Because they want the commission.
Yeah.
Why take the risk on someone like me who's brand new, and they just may think I'm not serious? A lot of people are not serious.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, you're not gonna get good deals. The deals that you do see, they're terrible deals. Right? Like
everything on the MLS is terrible. I was just like, wow, how? Like that's why it intrigued me at first. I was like, how do you even find these deals? Yeah. Like, who do you connect with? Right? I mean, it's nothing on the MLS. It's for homeowners that wanted to, buy whatever. Mm-hmm. And even then, I felt like it just no. Good deals are snatched like within days.
Like the good deals don't even go on LoopNet or Craigslist, right? Like the deals that go on LoopNet and Craigslist, they're bad deals. Like I underwrite. I teach students to underwrite deals on LoopNet just to learn what a bad deal is, because they're all bad deals on LoopNet, right? You can underwrite 100. I guarantee you, like 99 will be bad, right? But the point of LoopNet is to figure out who the brokers are and to talk to them to learn about the market. That's it, right? Mm-hmm. That's all I use brokers for. And lenders, they ask you, hey, show me your real estate portfolio. Where's your resume? I'm like, oh, I own 3 single family homes. Oh, you don't have experience then, right? Yeah. So now you have no experience with lender. And so how can you get your first deal if brokers don't give you deals and then lenders don't even trust you, right? So instead of me complaining, I just said, you know what? Screw the broker. I'm going to go direct to the owner using direct mail, go off market.
Yeah.
And I'm going to find a deal so great that the lenders will overlook the fact that I have no experience. And that's what I did. Right. Wow. I bought my 26 unit for $500,000. Guess where they appraised that? Day one. I did nothing. I bought for $500,000. It appraised at $750,000.
Wow.
So do you think they would overlook the fact that I have no experience? If this property appraised for $250K, 50%
but
more.
Then you close already, though.
What I bought for. Yeah. Right. So like they ran the appraisal, they know, oh wow, this thing appraised for 250K more. So I'm walking in and the lender is, because they're securing the loan on that, they already know they have 250K of equity. If I default, they can sell it, they can make money.
Yeah.
The deal.
How do you going back to that, 500 deal that appraised at 750? How, like, you talk to, walk me through how did you do it? Like, you went to the owner and be like, here, I can do whatever 20% off, like down, and then I can find a lender. Is that how it works? Or
yeah. So I think I have like a kind of like a PowerPoint delineating how I got my first deal, but kind of for more detail, like I went into pretty big details, like an hour-long video. You can check it out. But at a high level, I basically sent out letters, right? And then this guy, he was an attorney. He actually responded to me via email, and he just said, "Hey, I got your letter, and just make me an offer." Right. So typically for me, I try to at least talk to them on the phone. I'm in California; they're in Oklahoma. It's a little more personable if you can, talk on the phone or even like Zoom, like what we're doing.
Yeah.
But he was a lawyer. He wanted everything written.
Yeah.
Right. It makes sense. And I was like, okay, fine. And I just said, okay, hey, thanks for reaching out. In order for me to make an offer, I need this information. Right. I would say not me, but my lender would need this information. I would always ask for something called, the T12, which is the profit and loss statement, and a recent rent roll. So like, what's the occupancy? What's the rent? What's the vacancy? Right.
What is that called again?
The T12 and the rent roll.
Rent. So
the rent roll is basically saying I have 26 units. Unit number 1 is rented out for 500. Unit number 2 is vacant. Unit number 3 rents out for 400. Right. It's just basically a big document, of that. And that's something that I get on a monthly basis, right? For my current
when you have a property manager.
That's what I'm saying. Like when you own apartments, you're now a business owner, right? You can't, I know what you mean. A single family, it's more casual, right? It's just like, okay, yeah, just send me a check or Zelle me some money. But multifamily is a business.
Yeah.
Right. So you say, what's the T12? What's the rent roll? Right. And a lot of times, if they use a property management company, it's the big 3 are Rent Manager, Appfolio, and Buildium. Those are the big 3.
Say that one more time.
Appfolio, Buildium, and Rent Manager are the top 3. And from those, they will give you a P&L. So they'll tell you what's your income, what's your expense, and what's your net operating income. Right. And then the rent roll will tell you, okay, on a monthly basis, this is how much rent I'm getting. Right. So you get those 2 documents. Why do you need those documents? You're trying to calculate what your DSCR is.
Yeah.
You want the DSCR 1.25. Right. So, when you get, man, I can talk for like 5 hours about this topic. But basically,
maybe I should just go on your YouTube like before I like.
Oh, no worries. I love teaching again, and it's a little more engaging for myself if I can talk to someone live versus talking to myself, right? But it's basically when you look at the problem with the T12 is I'm handing you a document that's a T12. I can fabricate the document.
Yeah. What is the truth to it?
Exactly, right? So like that's why
even the rent roll, the same thing. Like unless I'm right there in person asking every single tenant, like you can just make that up. I can run like what basis do they have?
Exactly. But just know that the lender, you kind of have to take it with truth, right? Unfortunately, they could completely fabricate it, right? I mean, usually it is fabricated. Usually what happens is the collections are not as good as it really is, and then the expense is always higher than what it really is.
Yeah.
That's based on experience, right? Because why are they trying to inflate the NOI? Because they're trying to inflate the purchase price.
Yeah.
The purchase price is based on the NOI. That's what a lot of brokers do too. They'll inflate the NOI. They'll increase the income, decrease the expense to justify a higher purchase price. But you have experience, and you're being mentored.
You can call that BS real quick,
Yeah, you're being mentored by somebody, and learning from somebody a step ahead of you. Then you would know that I know expense in Oklahoma City is 55%. If I'm getting $10,000 a month, my expense is $5,500. Right, and that's before debt service. So that's before my loan payment. Right, so I have $4,500 left, and that pays my loan, and whatever is left is my net cash flow.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes when you show the lender, whatever, they don't care. They'll take the paper. They might take it like, okay, let's say like I've seen deals where like, hey, the expense ratio is 30%. The lender underwriter will be like, oh, let's make it 40%. But in my mind, I know it's like 55%. But it's okay. Let the underwriter do it. Right.
Yeah.
So because they want to see that DSCR 1.25. And the underwriters do something called stress tests. So what they do is they increase the interest rate and they decrease the amortization to increase the monthly loan payment. So it stresses the DSCR more in case something happens, right?
Yeah.